This is Dead Stick Radio, Episode 17, recorded Sunday, October 18th, 2020. Learning to fly in Formula One. Hey folks, quick announcement here. In this episode, we talk a lot about the Reno Air Races, but since recording this episode, we found that the Reno Air Races might actually be in jeopardy. They depend quite heavily on ticket sales every year, and with COVID-19, they're going to be missing out on all that revenue. So they're trying to raise about $500,000 by the end of the year. Otherwise, it looks like the races might be canceled into the future. So if you're a big air racing fan and you got a little bit of money to spare, then head on over to the Facebook page of the Reno Air Race Association, and you can find all the donation information there. And I hope to see you at the races in the future.
So today we have Kelly and Phillip Goforth, the president of the International Formula One Air Racing Association, as well as the promotions director, I think they call it. Is that right?
Promotions chair.
Chair, right. But that's only for another maybe couple days or until the results of the IF1 election comes out. And then who knows? Well, wait, both of you aren't running again, are you?
Nope.
You're retiring.
We're retiring.
Too much stress?
Was enough. Our 2 years was enough. We're done. We want to get back to racing.
Phil did it for 2 years?
Yep.
Oh, man. That time flew.
Did that for 2 years and pilot committee chair for 6.
So Phil, I'll give everybody listening some background here. So Phil has been racing IF1, Formula One at Reno and Air Race One all over the world since well before I started coming to Reno, which was like 2012. He was very much the one that coached me early on and taught me about racing, how it works, what the expectations are. And actually, he still does that at Reno, especially when I screw up. He'll call me on it. I'm kind of getting to the point now where I can kind of see a little bit more, so that's happening less and less. But I think we can give Phil credit for coaching most of the pilots that race today. He's definitely one of the more experienced people in the group. And then Kelly is Philip's wife. And then together you have what, 2 kids?
3.
3? Who is it? So Izzy is the one that normally comes to Reno, and who are the other ones? I don't think I've met the other ones, or maybe I did once.
Noah and Mason. Noah's been one time, and Mason's not ever been. Izzy's the one that we drag everywhere all over the world with us racing.
Right. Yeah. Why don't we back this thing way up? So I'm guessing most people.
How far back do you want to go from when you were wearing shorts and wiping down our airplane? I mean, how far back do you want to go with this, little Scotty?
So we've got kids. You got kids in your 20s, which means this thing goes back at least 20 years, right? And yeah. I hear rumblings of Alaska once in a while from Philip.
Yeah.
Let's start early on with Philip first. So you grew up where? Alaska? Where?
Around Kenai, Anchorage. Mostly Kenai, though.
That's kind of coastal, right?
It's right in the middle. Mountainous, coastal, a little bit of everything.
Yeah. So you went to high school there? When did you end up moving, or when did you end up leaving Alaska? Were you flying at the time? What's the story there?
Yeah, I was started professionally flying in 99, and then we left Alaska in 2003, I believe.
So when did Kelly come into the picture?
2007.
I'm like, I left in 2007. He may have left in 2003.
2007, yeah. But
were you guys together? Like you met in Alaska?
He's just forgetting his dates. We left in 2007.
Yeah.
What's the story there, Kelly?
There's no story. Honest to God, he's just forgetting his dates. We left Alaska in 2007 and came down to Texas.
What did you guys do? Meet in a bar or something? Or how did you meet? Flying?
Yeah.
We don't have the same version.
All right.
I was living in Juneau. I was out with my girlfriend, Susan Hess. Peace to the B-Girls. We were out having a good time, and this little pilot just kept following me every bar I went to. He was like right behind me, and I thought, he's kind of cute. And I used to manage this salmon hatchery where I hired a bunch of college-age girls. And I was like, I'll just introduce them to them. Nope, didn't happen that way. He was bound and determined. 3 days later, he basically moved in.
And how old were you?
Who, me?
Yeah, at the time.
You're not allowed to say that. You're not
No,
allowed
at
to
the
ask
time.
that.
At the time when you met.
25.
No. No. Yeah, 25. 25. 32?
She was 32. I was 25.
What's your side of it, Phil?
I wasn't far off of that. Yes, it really wasn't as hard as she was making it sound.
He stopped me in the middle of the street as I was driving my car. He flagged me down to get my number.
Levi 501s were a big deal then, that time. And I bent over once in front of her and it was over from then on. She saw the hiney.
Okay, no. That's not how that happened at all. Our first date, he shows up in this white shirt. It's really nice, crisp white shirt.
It was blue.
It was white. Maybe it was light blue. I don't know. But the sleeves were this long, Scott. It was somebody else's shirt he had found on the floor at the pilot house. It was out of a bag. And I'm just like, what am I going to do with this hot mess? So now 20 years later, here we are still kicking it.
So which kid happened first? Did your kids happen in Alaska or in Texas?
I had one and he had one.
And we have Elizabeth together.
And then Izzy showed up.
That makes sense. Okay, so what brought the move to Texas then from Alaska? So you guys were together in Alaska.
Yep.
Something changed that caused this move. What was it?
Is he pointing at me and I just can't see?
Yeah.
I can see his shadow.
We can see it.
He was flying for a company that had him flying in bad weather and with crappy gear material. Crappy airplane.
That's like bush flying, isn't it?
Well, it was basically it was a major airline that I was flying for. It was 121, but I was flying 1,400 hours every year. So
that's a lot.
I mean, it was cool when I was younger, but as I was getting older and just wanted to slow it down a little bit, a guy from down here called and offered me a job, and we ultimately took it. And the thing was, I wasn't even looking for a job when it happened. Just a buddy of mine from down here called and said that he had given my information to another guy, and we just started talking and hit it off, and that's how we ended up moving down here.
Now, and he became a cush corporate pilot after that.
Now, had you already been flying Formula One at that point?
No. It wasn't until I got down here. There was a guy that passed away. He was actually from Midland. He showed up and raced one year, but he wrote this really cool article on everything that he did. And, I don't read a whole lot, but I actually read this article and I was like, well, I can do that. And
in our garage.
So we went and bought the airplane and I built it in the garage and test flew it. So I had just to back it up a little, what we try to give guys now is what I didn't have when I started. See, I had nobody to tell me how the little airplanes flew, how it was going to scare the shit out of me, the very first time I flew it.
Well, I want to talk about that more as a warning to everybody else trying to get into it the cheap and quick way.
Yeah. So that's what we basically kind of took on, was kind of a mentorship to help build the class and help pilots with all the issues that I faced when I started, because it was, nobody wanted to share secrets. Nobody wanted to teach you anything for fear of, something happening and it'd be their fault. So,
or you'd be faster than they would be.
Or would be faster.
Yeah.
And so, after, it didn't take long after flying that airplane the first couple times to realize what I had jumped into and how serious it was. So,
well, tell me more about that, because that's kind of the big lesson here. So what did you learn in building that thing and flying it early on? Like, what happened?
Well, luckily, I was a very experienced pilot already. When I started Formula One, I had probably 12,000 hours and, lots of tail dragger time, lots of hot rod
aerobatic time,
bush flying. I had a lot of, a pretty diversified background in aviation. And it was still hard for me to do it. And I don't really consider myself a slouch as a pilot either. And it was still a handful going and jumping in an airplane that had never left the ground before. And I was the one that built it. So that was the scary part as well.
So your first airplane, your first Casset was a complete home built. It had never flown. It wasn't like Scott's first one where he had purchased off someone else, eh?
Correct.
And that was Naughty Girl.
Yes. Well, the very
first one, light purple, white, red duct tape, black duct tape, yellow duct tape. That one. If you go and look for Naughty Girl photos from 2008 or 2009, you'll get a good laugh.
But luckily though, I did it a different way because I got it flying. I mean, the whole experience was fed through a fire hose because I think I flew it 2 days after PRS. So I got home, I had it all together, hadn't flown it yet, but I got the PRS, picked up the few extra parts that I needed to totally complete it from someone there. I bought some stuff from Steve Temple while I was there. Came home, finished it completely, got it signed off, and I flew the 40 hours that you have to fly off of an experimental, plus about another 20 before Reno. So
that's in what, 2 months?
Yeah, June, July, August, September, so 2.5 months. And so luckily, I mean, I was probably the most current Casset pilot in the planet at that point because I flew 2 to 3 times a day, an hour at a time, just wow.
6 a.m. and then back out at 6 p.m. because it's too hot during the day to fly it here in Texas.
Oh, yeah.
So you have to be up at the butt crack of dawn to go out there early morning. I mean, he put in the time.
Yeah, but it was kind of cool though because I flew it the first couple times and didn't really mess with it, and then I started tweaking it, and it was a learning process on how to make it fly better as well because it flew like shit to start with. It was real FCG, real pitchy, real. Luckily, the engine ran well the whole time, and so I didn't have any issues with that. So
it was a Casset 2M fuselage, right, with the half-inch longerons, not the big ones. What did you have for wing at the time? Was it an owl wing?
It was an owl wood wing, an OR-71. It came off of
Aloha.
A little quickie is what it started as and ended as Aloha.
Yeah. It crashed
Aloha,
though, didn't it?
Well, Aloha became Alley Cat, which crashed in 2007.
Which got a composite wing though, and then you took the wood wing off Aloha and put it on your airplane.
Correct.
Right.
And then over the years, we just kept, I think every year I changed something on it, trying to get faster and faster. And so in 2008, I qualified right at 200 miles an hour with Naughty Girl. And in 2017, I think was the last year before I took it all apart, I qualified at 240.
Yeah, so big improvement year by year.
Yeah.
So, what did you learn early on there for all those people trying to get into it? Like what were your mistakes? Can you tell me about any?
As a wife, I can tell you don't invest in high-dollar paint. Because the one year we did a $5,000 paint job, it only lasted 2 years till he modified it again. And so after that, we were aerosoling as we're driving down the road to Reno. Never again was I paying for another paint job.
Well, if you can be content and like, if I could do it all over again, I would probably go buy an airplane like yours. And, that's well proven, very stable, something you could go fly every day. And that's my advice to guys that are coming in. Don't buy an airplane that you think you're going to get in the gold with. Buy an airplane that you think you can fly every day and build the experience to where, because the reality is if we took a new guy and gave him the 3 fastest airplanes at Reno are Endeavor, Freightnaut, and then Limitless. So if you put a rookie, unless they're a very qualified, aerobatic, some kind of pilot, they're going to make those airplanes probably 15 mile an hour slower, and they may not even be in the gold at that point. I mean, we've seen it in the past. We see guys buy as rookies, they buy airplanes that were doing 240 mile an hour on the course, and now they're flying them at like 220, 225. Right. So the best thing you can do is what you're doing is buy an airplane that you can build your experience at the same pace that your airplane's getting faster. And then once you're now you have another one coming that's faster, and so you'll be dialed in, ready to go.
Yeah, well, that was the original idea, is take all the lessons I learned coming out of my red stock cassette and put them all in the new one, which is a clean sheet, fresh build. Yeah. So right from the bones up, it's good, which was the original idea. Now, it's taken a long time, as you know, but it's getting there quickly now.
Yeah. So we've had multiple guys show up, too, that we run this little race camp here. And guys show up, and they're like, well, what I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna do that. They're gonna change the cowling, or they're gonna change pistons, or they're gonna change something. And I always tell them, I'm like, well, I guess you'll race next year. And they always kind of look at me, and they're like, what do you mean? I was like, guys who start messing with their airplanes usually don't make Reno the year they're messing with them. So the best speed you can buy is putting avgas through that motor and just flying. That's the best speed mod you can do, is pilot time in the airplane.
Learn how to fly your airplane.
Okay.
Every single one that shows up here. You don't need to go faster. You need to know how to fly it. And the ones that listen have done really well. Look at Lowell. Lowell spent a month and a half with us, and he went and won the gold.
What's the story there? How did you guys meet him?
I met him at PRS, and we had just started kind of doing I think that was 2010 when he showed up.
So for everybody listening, Lowell Slatter owns Freydnot. It's a DG2 custom designed and built Formula One racing airplane that has won several years now.
Yeah. So he showed up, and he hadn't flown it yet. And so it was the same thing. Lowell was a very accomplished pilot. He's a crop duster. He's a fire attack bomber pilot now. He very accomplished, very seasoned. And he showed up, and the airplane on the first flight tried to kill him. The engine kept dying, and he wasn't used to airplanes that were so clean coming into land. And so he scared himself pretty good on the first flight, got it down, though. But it took us, after we figured out why it was running rough, it took about a week and a half to get him back in the air, because he would taxi to the end of the runway, and then he would come back. And then he would find something else wrong, and he would taxi down to the end of the runway and come back, and we would fix it. And that went on for about a week and a half. And finally, his wife, Judy, goes, Philip, get in that damn airplane and go fly it. And so I took off and did a couple laps, rolled it a couple times, and did a flyby, and came back in and landed. And he, his eyes were real big still. Like, well, and I'm like, it's a Formula One. It flies like a Formula One. Congratulations. It's awesome. And so I helped him fly, because we had to fly the 40 hours off, the same as the other one. So I flew about half the hours off of Freydnot in the very beginning as well.
So Freydnot is F-R-A-E-D, help me, N-A-U-G-H-T?
I don't know. It's some crazy.
Yes.
So people can Google it?
Yes.
Yeah. It's a DG2. It's a really cool airplane. Yeah,
it was designed and built by a guy named Dan Gilbert, I think.
Correct.
Which is a shorter version. It kind of looks like John Sharp's original F1 Nemesis, except it's a bit shorter, I think, in fuselage. It has a elliptical wing.
Mm-hmm. Correct. Well, he built the second Nemesis, the original second Nemesis. It was called Shadow. And then it was later called Misbehaving. And he was the guy who originally, he had just retired when I first started, and he let me have the number 69 to go on Naughty Girl. So I was pretty thankful for that.
Oh, is that how that worked?
Yeah.
So
it was important to have the number 69 so that if it's upside down, it's the same number, right?
Yeah.
It means nothing.
Oh, yeah.
Else.
Okay.
Symmetry is everything.
What did Freydnot fly like compared to a stock cassette? Or a pitch or something?
it was shorter, so it had a little more. It was a little more pitchy, but the wing was so clean. I mean, it's the same as all these modern wings like yours. I was able to come through. I just wanted to see how clean it was. I came through and did a flyby. I was probably about 250, 260 mile an hour going down the runway, pitched up, and I pulled the power back to idle. And I went all the way up, came downwind, base, final, kept going all the way to the end of the runway, turned downwind for another runway, base, and final, and still had to slip it to get it on that runway. So it glided after I simulated the engine quitting 5 miles. I mean, it was so clean, so clean.
From 250 miles an hour over the runway.
Correct. Yeah.
At like 50 feet.
No, like this high.
5 feet. 2 feet.
We don't do
inches.
flybys at 50 feet. That's racing.
That's not a flyby.
So for everybody else listening, now that we've compared the DG2 to a Casset, what does a Casset or standard Formula One plane fly like? How would you describe it?
One like yours, if I dove it down, because yours is kind of heavy.
Yeah.
But if I dove it down the runway at about 200 and did the same scenario, probably wouldn't make it back around to the first runway. I mean, you'd have to be very aggressive, pulling hard all the way back around and just do one big teardrop entry, and then you could probably make the runway again.
Yeah, that's what I find. If I do the same maneuver you just talked about, I can pitch to about 600 feet, but that initial pitch up has to be a climbing turn for the downwind at high G to get that nose pointed backwards quickly, and then I can't fly any downwind at all. I have to immediately start a base turn, or else I can't make that last 180.
Yeah,
like it's pretty short. How do you explain the flying qualities of a stock F1 or a normal Casset?
They're beautiful. As long as you don't have them AFCG like a lot of guys try to make them for racing, and if you've got a stock Casset that's a nice forward CG airplane, it flies like a J3 Cub that does 200 mile an hour. I mean, it's just awesome. You fly it like this. I mean, it's probably one of my most favorite airplanes to fly. It's just a stock one.
Yeah, I find that too. I find it very directionally stable on the runway, unlike a Pitts or something. Even better than my Kit Fox. It pitches very light through all speeds, and then roll gets kind of heavier as the speed goes up through 200. And then rudder is powerful at all speeds.
Yeah, that's what I found with Annie. It was roughly a stock Casset, and it got going so fast that I couldn't even turn the ailerons. I mean, it was two hands just to make the ailerons go into there. So
yeah, mine's kind of the same, except I wasn't as fast.
Yeah, that's because Annie is the world's fastest slab wing still today in 2020.
I don't know. There's one coming next year that is going to be if he builds a good motor, it'll be fast.
We'll see.
What's the story on Annie?
It depends on who the pilot is on Annie too. I don't know.
It
depends on who's piloting Annie at the time.
So
what's the story on Annie? People can look it up. It's on Google.
On Annie? Well, I flew it the 1 year. We got it. We kind of did an overhaul on it. We put a fresh motor. We, repainted it, got it all basically cleaned up to race again.
It was built by Carl Swenson, I think.
Swenson, correct. And
Texas
he passed
guy?
away. He passed away, and we bought it from the widow and brought it here. But Carl never worked on it after he built it. He worked for I think Lockheed, so he was a Skunk Works guy.
Oh yeah.
And so there was all kinds of little super Skunk Works stuff in the cowling and the oil cooler, and that's what made the airplane so fast. And then we put a motor that he never had. We put a really strong motor on it, and we came in 5th in the gold in 2018 with a slab wing Casset.
Wow.
Man, that's crazy.
So we beat, I think, 5 big hot rod taper wings that were in the gold previously, and we put them back in the silver.
It was a good year. It was a good year.
That airplane looks so good too.
Yeah. Especially when it's passing you, huh?
So
It's just a white blurb.
I have a great photo of that.
Planes?
I have a great photo. Brian, when you edit this, can you put that photo of me passing Annie up so people can see it right by home pylon?
I'll see if I can
From
find
a
it.
GoPro on my wing.
Yeah. So how many race planes have you guys actually owned?
Well, with Buddy Air Racing, the Buddy brothers, that's who we have stabled with, I guess you would say.
So hang on. You want to describe the buddies first so people can hear that story, so they have context when you talk about your airplanes you owned?
Well, you got to start. It's generations of buddies that were. I mean, the 2 older buddies, George and Bobby. George passed away this last year, and Bobby.
He's still alive.
He's still alive. He's 97, I believe. Both World War II pilots, Korea pilots, airlines.
Badass.
I mean, they are
badass pilots.
just badasses.
They were big in F1 too for like 3 decades.
They had their own invitational race. You had to be invited to come race at, and it was in Oklahoma City. And then they both raced though. I think into their 70s. They both raced, and they started in. I think Bobby started first in like the late 70s with El Bandito. And then George came right after that, and they had a whole stable of Okie somethings. You know, it was Okie Streaker, Okie Stroker.
Yeah,
you know,
and they built up all these airplanes one after the other, right?
Correct. And they were, you know, after they retired, you know, I got a hold of Bobby about flying El Bandito, and so we brought it home, cleaned it up a little bit because it hadn't flown in 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then
you were familiar with El Bandito, correct, Scott? Could you please put that video up too when you get a chance? Could you throw that photo up? Because Scott's very familiar with El Bandito.
There's a video. We should try and put a link in the comments or something of when I was in my, I think, rookie year.
Yep.
Philip brought El Bandito out. Second year. Philip brought El Bandito out as they were starting this relationship with the buddies, and we have to get back to how many planes you've had. And this thing hadn't flown in forever, and it was barely airworthy, and they raced it, but it was so fast, and it was so innovative. It still exists. I don't know where it is today. But Philip took it out and raced it in the very last race in the bronze, I think, just to win the race. Way faster than I was. I was slated to win the bronze that year. Philip followed me for 5 laps.
He barely hung in the air. You were so
sandbag. On the very last lap, he juiced it and passed me on like pylon 5 of 6, right down the front stretch into home pylon. And I lost the race to El Bandito. But I was running a cockpit GoPro video pointed backwards at my face. But unfortunately, it captured Philip sitting there on my wing for all these laps the whole way, including my face expressions when I noticed what he was doing and that he was there. Before that, I thought I was home free.
No.
Yeah. So then Philip goes in and narrates this video, puts it on at the banquet at the end of the race, narrates this thing with the funniest commentary I think most of us have ever heard, and now made it what it is today. So instead of getting the bronze first place trophy, I got a top rookie video trophy thanks to Kelly with a Snoop.
You're welcome.
So everybody listening should watch this.
So
hilarious.
We gave that trophy, and the only reason I didn't let you win was because that was the last time Bobby was there, and he was 90. I think he was 94 or 95, and we gave the trophy to him, and he broke down crying, and just it was awesome.
It was a win for all of us. I
Yeah.
wouldn't have it any other way.
You know what? I think that was our most fun year that we had.
Oh yeah.
In 10 or 11 years of racing, I think that the El Bandito year was it. And think of all the crap that happened. I mean, the wing got ran over. There may or may not have been a fire of some type. I mean, there was just
Ran off the runway.
Oh yeah.
But looking back, I still think out of all the years that we've been there, I had the most fun that whole entire time. Even with all the
After that bronze race, after we landed, I was rolling out on the runway and I was like, I smell smoke. Is it foggy in here? No. Philip's landing in front of me because he plays first, and I'm in his smoke. So as we come off the runway and park on the apron, he's smoking so bad, we have to call the fire department.
We had to beat you, Scott.
Oh, he did. With everything he had.
Exactly. Like I said, it was hard for him to stay behind you that long. I mean,
No,
it looked like he was dropping out of the air every time.
What had happened was the bulkhead on the spinner, it was so old, it broke. And so there's even pictures of it. There's still pictures of where you and I are flying around, where one picture of the spinner's looking down, the next is looking up, and then it's looking. So we're lucky the whole thing didn't just fly off anyways. And so it wasn't on fire. What had happened was it shook it so bad that oil was coming out of the front seal. And I have been on fire before. This wasn't fire.
He knows fire. He knows what fire looks like and feels like. This wasn't fire.
We're digressing a bit here.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how we met, how we got hooked up with the buddies. Back when we first started racing, it was 2009 when I was there. I had to have been there that year.
10.
And it might have been 10. There used to be a couch back by the
exit.
No, back by the stands where they do the awards. There used to be a couch there. And that's where the old F1 pilots used to sit and make fun of all of you guys. Okay?
I didn't know this.
Yeah. So it's like Ray Sherwood, George, Bobby, Carl was there one year. I mean, it's like you guys have the Muppets in Canada?
Yep.
Yeah.
It was like the
two old grumpy guys up. That's the old Formula One guys.
The
and I
old
hope
peanut
I get to
gallery.
Be one. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the peanut gallery. But these peanut gallery people were really smart. So one year, we had Naughty Girl, and she was just giving us fits. Nobody could figure out what was wrong with her. Okay, nobody. Our mechanic couldn't figure it out. I had every other mechanic at every other airplane. People who were real good mechanics. Nobody could figure it out. And all I wanted to do was race. And so I walked my happy ass over to that couch where all these guys are sitting there laughing. And I mean, Ray Sherwood and I used to go back and forth anyway because he had this wing Philip really wanted. But anyway, that's another story.
That Philip has.
This Philip has now. Anyway, so I was almost in tears. And I said, would one of you please get off the couch and come fix our airplane? And they just kind of look at me and they're like, you got all these young punks doing it. I'm like, they don't know a freaking thing. They can't make this run. And so
he sent his boys over.
George,
they wouldn't get off the couch.
George goes, I don't have time, but I'll send my boys over. So I'm thinking, okay, the boys. Who are the boys? Sure enough, here comes Harlan and Billy, Buddy. And they weren't boys. They were in their 50s and 60s. Okay, Harlan's wearing his bib overalls. And I mean, they just, you know how long it took them to fix that airplane?
5,
Seriously?
10 minutes?
I was so mad at everyone around me that it took them 5 minutes to go over there and fix it. And they didn't say a word. They went over there, they fixed it, then they walked off.
And then they came and made me a drink.
And then, that was it. And then
they started pointing after that. They're like, we could change that, you'll go faster. We change that, you'll go faster. And I'm like,
so
let's do it.
That's how we got the buddies back involved in Formula One. Instead of just sitting on the couch making fun, we got them back into it and excited. And now I can't get Harlan to quit buying airplanes. He just bought 2 more last week. And I'm like,
so if you know any new pilots that are wanting to get in, we have a couple extra horses that need drivers.
And one of them has raced Reno before. But I'm just like, Harlan, how many airplanes do you think Philip can fly? I think 2 is enough, don't you think?
Yeah, I'm already going to have 3 next year, so it's too many.
So that's the story of how the Buddies and the Goforths became one.
Right. So you and now Harlan mostly are kind of the main actors in this scheme. And you keep finding all of these F1s from all over the place that haven't flown in a decade or something.
Yep.
Fixing them up, resurrecting them, and bringing them back to Reno.
Right.
So you did that with El Bandito. You've done that with Annie. I'm sure there's 2 or 3 more that I'm forgetting.
Judy.
Yeah. So, oh yeah. What else? What's coming?
What's coming?
The Streaker?
We've got Quad Nickel is going through a facelift right now. It's going to have new paint, new race motor. It's never had a race motor, and it's always done in the 230s, like high 220s. And so it'll have a, this Millennium engine. So it'll have electronic ignition, roller rockers. It'll have 3-blade prop. So it
who owns it now?
We do.
Buddy Air Racing.
Oh man.
So we've got that. We've got one other stock cassette that we're trying to talk Blair into coming and flying.
Yeah.
And then Harlan just picked up 2 more that are, old stalkers. One's like Pooter. It's called Maybe's Baby. It's got flaps. It's like a Pooter clone. So we'll have that for somebody to race, and then another one called Gold Fever, and they raced before. They were both Dusty Dowd's airplanes. Dusty was big into Formula One in the 90s, and then he's an unlimited guy now. He owns a Mustang.
Yeah, so Dusty Dowd maybe still is a crop duster.
He still is a crop duster.
Has been racing Reno forever, since probably the 70s.
Well, he quit for a long time, and then he just came back 2 years ago.
Right.
He quit in, I think late 90s, early 2000s he quit.
Yeah, so he was kind of in the era of like Bruce Bohannon, John Sharp, Deke Slayton, the Apollo astronaut. Mm-hmm. Kind of that era when F1 was really strong and fast.
Yeah. Hopefully we get to stay strong and fast. Now we've got our numbers back up. Now we just got to keep from imploding on the inside.
Yeah. So F1, for those that don't know, it's an air racing association that raced all over the U.S. And hey, we can pause it,
Sorry.
So it's been racing all over the U.S. forever, since the 60s probably, and kind of goes through waves of really hot, fast airplanes, lots of energy, and then some pilots retire or whatever, and it kind of shrinks a little bit, and then it comes back, and then it gets full of energy again, and a lot of new young energy comes into it. We get new airplanes that come from that, so it kind of follows these waves, probably similar to other sports. So that's kind of what we're talking about when we talk about previous eras in, say, the 90s. Lots of superstars kind of came from that. Yeah, I agree. So then it got.
We got a bunch. I mean, we would have had a full field this last year.
We had 30 airplanes that were signed up.
So when was the downswing? So it was high in the 90s, and then it kind of fell again.
Something happened somewhere and I think it was right after we had a real bad crash in 2007, and it killed one of our guys, Gary Hubler. A lot of guys quit. A lot of guys parked their planes after that. And it just kept going down, down, down. And that's when I finally kind of stepped in and started trying to bring these old racers back, because the 3rd year I went, they asked us not to come back. Reno did, because we only had 12 airplanes show up. And so
that was like 2010?
2009. So we had 12 airplanes show up then. It was 2009. So that's when we kind of took it on, and I'm like, look, everybody doesn't need a fast airplane, because everyone was complaining about how we didn't have the numbers that we needed of pilots and planes. So that's when we started hunting these old ones down, and we got a bunch of stock airplanes flying again. So
And you brought probably more importantly, you got a bunch of pilots flying.
Yeah.
Energetic, young blood.
Younger ones that will, the ones that will listen will be successful.
Yeah,
We
that
had
stay for a
two-
while.
Yeah.
We've had 2 that have come through our camp that have both won the gold.
So what,
Not us, but
so what? So you guys have this race camp down there in Texas. What exactly goes on in your little race camp?
our little race camp
Little race camp, big
It's
race
big.
camp,
is the
It's a
biggest
whole
race
hangar.
camp around.
the legendary Goforths race camp.
The Fly Boys race camp.
Fly Boys race camp.
What is he?
A lot of guys show up and they've never flown formation before, and they've never done, the aggressive side of flying. And so we take them, they leave their planes with us, we take care of them, and then they show up and fly them when they can. And we take them up and we teach them formation, how to fly, not necessarily formation, but proximity on how to fly near someone safely, how to pass. We do
A lot of maintenance.
a lot of guys haven't done formation takeoffs before. We do a handful of those before they go to Reno. And that goes back to the same thing that I had. The very first race of Formula One I ever saw, I was in. And I saw it from the front row, thank God, because it was overwhelming as shit. Because the very first formation takeoff I did was in the race with 7 other dudes behind me.
I was just thinking, we totally forgot to tell everybody listening what Formula One racing is.
Everyone should know.
I know, but they probably won't. You want to describe it, just so that everybody in the audience can get some context to this one?
Well, it's kind of a stock car class of airplane racing. We have very strict rules as far as our airframes go, our engines go, our pilots. But it's also the one with the most lineage behind it as well. Reno started in '64, but our class was actually racing in Goodyear in '48.
In Cleveland.
In Cleveland, yeah. So we've been racing since before the Reno Air Races even started. Our group has. So, it's a budget way to get into racing. But if you ever look back on the history books, the Reno racing history books, the guys that were making the most leaps and bounds in the 70s, 80s, and 90s were the Formula Ones and the Unlimiteds. And it would usually go to the Formula Ones first, and then the Unlimited guys would see it and go, yeah, and they'd go put it on a Mustang, and then they would go faster, like our canopies and our turtle decks and, our inlets for cooling. And they saw how fast we were going on very little horsepower, and they go and put it on their super race machines and go really fast.
So what air racing is from the beginning is, and tell me if you agree with this definition, is we take a pylon, a round or an oval shape, a closed course grouping of pylons out over wherever this race is, whether it's a field or the desert or whatever in case of Reno. Mm-hmm. Our track or our course is about 3 miles oval, about the same size as Daytona. Mm-hmm. And we take off 8 airplanes at once, and we fly 8 laps down at pylon height, which is about 50 feet, passing on the outside, wide open throttle the whole way. And the winner is the one that passes home pylon first after 8 laps. Is that a good way to describe it for people?
It's Perfect. Like NASCAR in the sky.
Except it's not like NASCAR. We start, it's more like Le Mans.
Oh.
Because it's a standstill start, and the race starts on the ground. So we're passing on the ground as well.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and that's the way it's been since the 40s. Like forever. And there have been different racing classes. So we have Formula One, which is our class, which is we use O200s, and our game is more about aerodynamics, all the way up through biplane, T6, Sport, Jet, Unlimited. I think I got them all. And some of those classes are more about horsepower than they are about aerodynamics. F1 is the true thoroughbred racing class.
Correct.
Mostly an aerodynamics game. So when we talk about airplanes and going fast, most of what Philip's talking about is through this goal of drag reduction, which is why something like Frayed Knot can glide so well. It's about efficiency.
Yep.
Is that a good way to talk about it?
Very good.
So down there in Texas, do you guys have your own racetrack set up near the ground?
Yeah.
That is a good question.
Yeah, we do.
What airport are you based out of?
Big Spring, Texas. It's
kind of by Midland?
Yeah, it's close to Midland. It's an old military base that's, it's perfect for what we do. We have the airport manager saw what we were doing, and he rented me one of the old military alert hangars. So I have a hangar that at any given time, I have 15 to 20 race planes in.
Wow.
Plus a Spitfire, plus a Swift, plus a 140, plus my Pacer. And a Lusco.
Now, is that a real Spitfire, or is it a little midget Spitfire?
Yeah, it's 90% scale one.
Wow.
Yep.
With a V6 car engine or something?
V8.
V8.
A little smaller than a Merlin, but it'll do.
So for these people interested in learning to fly F1, why don't we talk about that a little bit, and you can kind of talk a little bit about how to get into your race camp. What's the best way for a new person or a prospective pilot to learn to race F1 and get into Reno or Air Race 1?
I'd say go find your local pits guy. Get a full pits checkout, like an insurance pits checkout. And that'll get you used to landing fast and an airplane that you can't see out of very well, and the squirreliness of the short tail dragger. And if you can fly a pits well, if you get into a good balanced airplane, you can fly the Casset, no problem.
So after the pits checkout, what's the road to race camp?
Fly your airplane a bunch. Just normal flying. Don't try to do anything weird. Don't try to do loops, rolls. Just go fly it to where you have a feel of what your airplane is doing. You have sounds that you know. You have muscle memory for the airplane. And so that when you're doing the more aggressive stuff where you don't actually have time to be looking down at the gauges, you'll know by sound and feel if something's different in the airplane. You'll have that knowledge of the airplane already. And after you fly the airplane, I'd say 20 hours myself, but a lot of guys do a lot less than that. But it shows when they show up to Reno and they go around the turns and they climb 50 to 100 feet and then they come down, and it shows the guys who took some mentoring and put the time in to come do what they wanted to do.
Yeah. So do you do this at your race camp? Like, do you help with this kind of thing, like the ab initio type stuff, first flights, or do you want people that contact you after they've flown a bunch?
Well, we've had it both ways, but it helps. But see, a lot of guys don't have the mentorship at home where they can do that first flight. And so we offer that as well, and most of the time what happens is I end up flying the airplane first and I go, okay, well, this is right, and this is wrong. And then we tweak it and I fly it again. And then we tweak it and I fly it again. I'm like, all right, here's an airplane that works, that I know flies right. Now I can guide you through what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong.
But if it was up to me, they would have at least 20 hours in their airplane of just regular flying. They would have some aerobatic experience before they actually showed up at camp, not just come in green. Because
that's the pits checkout.
Okay, well, that's where I'm at now. Where it used to be is, yeah, sure, come on down, we'll teach you. No, I don't want to put that stress on Philip anymore, and I don't want to be sitting at the table having a conversation with him about how come you can't stay on the line? Like, it's just a straight shot down the line. Just follow your airplane down. What are you doing? Why are you all over the runway before you even take off? I don't want any of that anymore. It's too stressful.
Well, it is. And then we had some bad luck this 2 years ago. A guy that we made go get school, go get teaching, and lots of tailwheel time. And we got into where he was flying the airplane good. And we were a week before Reno. And so we were talking through maneuvers on how to do the check ride. Our check ride consists of some ground maneuvers, and then you have to do some very limited aerobatic flight. And we went up, and I was in the Spitfire, and he was beside me in his airplane. And he dished out of just a roll and pulled. And we were at about 5,000 feet above the ground doing it, totally safe. He had a parachute on. And he rode it all the way to the ground because he passed out. He pulled so hard. Instead of finishing the maneuver, rolling and finishing the maneuver, he dished out and pulled and passed out and crashed and died. So last 2 years for me has been pretty dramatic, pretty hard to get back on the horse. But now we're feeling a little better about it and kind of getting going the right direction again.
So you're back.
Yeah, and I know. Well, you took that year off, right?
Yeah.
Well, I didn't initially, but then I got to Reno and I was like, no, I'm not doing that.
I think that God intervened on that because Philip wasn't in the right frame of mind to fly. And I kept telling him that. And we went through 3 different airplanes trying to get him ready for Reno in that week. I mean, we were in Reno. He came up a week early to try to put his engine in another one, and nothing worked out. And I kept saying, there's a reason this is happening. Stay on the ground. Just stay on the ground.
I did fly at Reno. I was, what did he call it? Hysteria. It was
Hysteria.
22. So we put my engine on Hysteria, and I flew it once, and I got back on the ground, and I'm like, nah. They were like, oh, it sounded awesome. It's going to do so good. I'm like, nah, I'm done. And popped a beer and watched Reno from the ground that year.
Yeah, sometimes it's better just to kind of take that time off and kind of collect and whatnot. And you're back up flying now, though, eh?
Oh, yeah, every day almost.
Yeah, but
I
citation stuff.
I still want pilots to come with experience and I want them to have more experience because I'm the one who actually spends the time with the rookies because I'm the one that does their laundry and cooks for them and we eat meals together, and so I really get a real close personal connection to them.
And I'm whooping their ass all day long, every day. I'm like, because I don't treat them like kids when they show up and we're doing stuff and they do a stupid takeoff or a stupid landing. I go get them and I let them have it.
So they come back.
Do you have room for them? Like to stay as well?
Oh yeah,
or
we have bunk rooms in the
hangar.
We have bunk rooms in our hangar. We've got we had a ranch back until last year. And a lot of guys were staying out there, but we have plenty of room at the hangar where guys come and stay. Got a little 9-hole golf course built. Pretty cool.
It's nothing fancy at all, but it works. And if you're there to learn how to work on your airplane and how to fly your airplane, it's a good place to be because you are right there.
Yeah.
What's that?
I said, and when we are doing the race camp, full, like when it's in full steam and there's 10 to 15 of us there, a new guy can come into that. And we have, my 12, 13 years of racing. Justin Matters is there, who's a good pilot and as well as a mechanic and a designer. Kevin Broha comes from Europe, so we have a full-time mechanic the whole time.
So they learn.
And so we've got, for my many years of screwing up, and I can tell them why not to do something. And then we've got, newer guys, but we also have the ability to go fly with them, and it works. You can partner them with someone like a low-time guy with a higher-time guy, and they just go fly around together, even if it's not racing, but it's still flying around together.
Yeah, so for those listening that are interested, Philip and Kelly's race camp is probably the biggest grouping of F1 airplanes in the world at any one time, other than outside of racing. But any other Formula One pilot I don't know any that's not approachable for help or advice or mentorship or anything. You don't have to go to Midland for this. There are pilots all over Europe, Asia, Canada, several in Canada. I think there's 4 airplanes in Alberta alone, all over the United States, all of these people, if you get in touch with any of us current F1 pilots, they can put you in touch with somebody who's local or close to you if you don't want to travel to Midland. But It sounds like Midland is a really great option to learn from many people at the same time, not just one.
And we give them the ability to leave their airplane there put together as well. So, like most of the airplanes in my hangar now, the guys are from different countries. So we have Italy, India, China.
Flip it to
2. Barksdale has 2 from Colorado. And then all of ours right now. But I mean, there's planes from all over the world in there. And what they do is they fly in and the plane's put together and we keep them running. And I fly them occasionally. And so all they have to do is show up and get in the airplane and fly. And so it makes it pretty easy for them. And then our runway too, like I was saying earlier, is an old 104, 105 alert base. And so the runway is 200 foot wide by 10,000 foot long.
Man.
So, and then
sounds nice, huh?
the little runway, which is a crossing runway, is 6,000 foot long. And then it's got old shut down runways that are just going every direction. So
And
there's nowhere you couldn't land and be okay.
we're in the middle of nowhere, Texas. There's no
Flat.
trees. There's no mountains. There's nothing.
Flat.
Flat.
Is there a tower there?
No,
No tower?
Well,
it is,
yeah.
but it's closed. I mean, it's the old military one.
Oh, man. That sounds perfect.
It is pretty fun. When everybody's here and we're going, and we have permission to be out on the runway from the airport manager. So we take trucks out. So even when a guy does his first takeoff, like when we had Metters fly his airplane for the very first time, it was
here.
scratch built, spec built airplane. The first flight it took was at Big Spring at our camp, and
hand controls.
Huh?
Yeah,
And hand
hand
controls.
Hand
Well,
controls, yeah. So we basically had our own Reno, rescue setup. We had guys at every taxiway. When he took off, I went behind him in my truck, and as he's going, I'm in the truck chasing him down the runway. So in case anything happens and he stops or flips, I'm on him right there immediately. And we did that for probably 6 different guys that brought their airplanes here that hadn't flown them or that were new at doing it. And so far it's worked okay.
So when do you hold your race camp?
All year long.
Starts January 1st, ends January 1st.
It's just whenever guys
When's the
like
best
right now.
It used
August?
It used to be when Jay Jones would show up. That's how race camp started for us. Is Jay would come down with his airplane
Because it was too cold in
'cause it
Colorado
was
to
too
fly.
cold. Yeah, and so he'd come down and then slowly we just started adding more people.
Oh.
And then it
Yeah,
grew
the first camp we had was me, Jay, and Lowell. And then the second one was who came the second time? Me, Jay. The second year though, we had a bunch of airplanes because I was flying 3 airplanes that year. So we had a lot of flying going on.
So anyway, yeah, there's not a set time. What I do like to do is if I know Barksdale's coming down from Colorado, I want to have somebody else at the hangar with him. So, we'll put it out on Facebook, on our Facebook group saying, hey, we're going to have race camp start here. So if we can get, at least 2 to 3 other pilots at the same time, that's what I prefer instead of the ones that go all year long and just kind of show up periodically. And
Yeah, so for people listening, Jason Barksdale is he's a race pilot that was involved and injured severely in the Galloping Ghost crash of 2011, right?
yes.
2010, 2011. Now, after that, it was his mission to race, and now here he is today.
They told him he wouldn't walk.
That
Yeah,
might be
they told him he wasn't going to be able to walk. And here he is racing airplanes now.
Yeah, man, that's great. Man, we should interview him, Brian.
Yeah, we definitely
You
should.
should.
Talk to him.
You should.
We need his story. So
He's got a good story.
what's coming from the Flyboys race camp or from the Goforths stable, I guess? What's coming next year?
I can tell you quad nickel.
Yeah.
And then there'll be one other I know for sure. So Philip will be flying 2 for sure. I'm not going to tell you the name of the second one.
Why not?
Because I just want to. It may change, and the name may change. You know, it might end up being some kind of a naughty something. Who knows?
And has this plane flown before?
Yes, it has. Yes, it has. But like, you know how we did Naughty Little Annie for Annie.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, because after Philip destroyed Naughty Girl, which I'm still very bitter about, and he actually has admitted a couple of times that maybe he shouldn't have modified her so much. And
he didn't destroy it. He parted it out.
He parted it out.
He didn't crash.
Because he couldn't get any more speed out of her. I mean, I'm lucky I've been around 20 years. He hasn't parted me out yet. Thank God. I mean, where's the love? I love that airplane.
Philip asked her what's coming.
So there may be another naughty something on its way.
Well, what's on the list for next year that people can come watch?
Formula One airplanes.
Lots of them. Lots of them.
Well,
and we love spectators.
Give us some.
Even if you don't want to race airplanes, you just want to come down and hang out and maybe tinker around on one. We are always looking for people to come help us work on airplanes down here. Always.
Yeah, that's huge. F1's a huge family in the hangar. I can't speak for the other ones because I haven't raced those classes, but F1 is all about the family atmosphere.
Yep. That's how we got you excited.
That's right. I was on the Goforth crew for probably 4 or 5 years.
Well, and that's what like I said earlier, when we first took on that, we were trying to fix what I saw was going wrong in Formula One. You know, the attitude, the 12 airplanes, you couldn't get any information from anybody then. And so that's when we started changing to, and it was mostly Kelly getting tied into it then at that point, because we started feeding everyone in the hangar, and we started, making it more of a family atmosphere and a better vibe is what we were trying for.
Inclusive.
Inclusive,
We're being inclusive.
And it
That's
worked.
a big word today.
Yeah.
And it worked for a long time.
Still working.
So, hope so.
There's gonna be a couple people. There's gonna be a couple people that aren't gonna be invited to my sandwich wing again, just so you know.
Right. So the background of that is after both of you being on the board for years, you kind of feel a little roughed up, we should say.
Yeah.
Shoot up, spit back out.
Yeah.
Right.
So unappreciated.
We were
now
prepared.
that you're retiring.
I'm not going to say we were not prepared. The love of air racing does not make a good board person. A good board person is someone who understands. Yeah, you have to have a thick skin. You have to, you have to not think of everybody as your friend, and you have to know your bylaws and know that you can't interpret them any way you want. We're going back to racing.
It just it roughed me up in the bad way, because everything that I've done the last 12 years has been trying to make this group better, and to have a couple of people come at me and saying like my actions were hurting or doing something wrong for the group, it just didn't sit well.
So we're going back to racing.
And probably that and the crash you talked about a couple years ago.
Yeah, that was rough.
Probably all adds into a reduced energy.
Yeah,
and enthusiasm.
We're getting motivated again, though.
Yeah, we're getting there.
I bet it'll come back real quick.
I'm the driving force behind his motivation, because every year after Reno, he comes back. I'm done. I'm selling the plane, and he goes and he would put Naughty Girl on stupid barnstormers and whatever. And then I just watched, and he'd get offers, and then I'd look at him, I go, really? And he's like, never mind. Delete.
Three guys tried to buy her like for more than what I was asking for it. And I'm like, no. Then I would come back and so we'll see how the rest of the year goes, but we should have a top 3 airplane.
What's coming? Give
people
some hints here. Give people some hints here.
A naughty something.
Get people interested in this thing.
A naughty
what
something
is this
will
thing?
be showing up.
I want to beat it.
It's going to spank Scott all over the track.
Okay.
Is your
I'm into bodywork. I'm into bodywork now. So for those that don't know, there's a new league called Air Race E, which is a spin-off of F1 with electric motors. I've got a package that's pretty much ready to go for that. Most of the construction is complete now. It was a bit of a distraction from the new racer for a little while we developed that and built up that package. So right now, actually, I haven't bodyworked much in the last 3 months probably. But now that the electric is just wrapping up now and the construction is pretty much done, we're getting back into it.
Good.
So besides bodywork, it has no systems in it, but the controls are 100%. And man, it's perfect. Chris Weaver's seen it. So if you want to talk to him about what it looks like, you can talk to him. Not many other people have. It's actual airplane. He can verify it. After bodywork, it's just electronics, plumbing, and it's ready.
Good. So 2021?
We'll see. I got to fly it a lot here, as you know. And as like Justin knows and all those new airplanes that you brought out, there's all these development issues with it and hurdles that you have to get through, right, to get a safe airplane onto the course. But also on top of that, the wings have 20 gallons of gas aside, wet wings. And then with a big main tank in the fuselage, that's a coast-to-coast speed record airplane. So I'm kind of putting all those systems in it as well, which just adds to the time, right? And it'd be really nice to kind of fly at long range like that before you take it racing. So that's kind of the project for the winter.
I'm ready to make a bet with you whenever you're ready, because I've been out of Tim Hortons coffee now for quite a while.
I don't know. You've given us 0 hints on what's coming next year. So you got Quad Nickel coming with a new paint job. What else?
Whatever, it's coming in front of you.
Yeah.
Okay. Trash talking already. What else?
We don't even know what the plane looks like, and we know it's ahead of you. So that's the way it goes with the Goforths. We trash talk Scott Holmes.
I know you have that really fast wing, right? Or did you sell that?
I don't know what you're talking about.
That thin wing. Okay. Here we go. Come on, give people some hints.
No, it's a highly modified slab wing.
Yeah.
We're bringing it's made out of lead.
Wait. Is this that? What's that? Maybe's. What's that airplane called?
Don't know what you're talking about.
This is recorded, guys. I can rewind.
Okay.
Yeah. No, that's
and
that's
some
the name
gold
of that
dust or something.
Do what?
And a gold dust airplane or something.
Yeah, Gold Fever, I think it was what it was called. Yeah, the other ones.
Are they for sale or are you?
So what we're gonna do? It's just like we always do. We race them a year, and then we make sure they're proven, make sure they work, and then we sell them. And so if somebody wants them after this next year, there'll be 2 or 3 of them for sale.
The idea is that Philip gets to fly as many race planes as possible. Period. That's like Harlan's goal, is to go around and find all the old racers, bring them back, and Philip can fly it once, and then if we want to sell it, sell it. So isn't that funny? I mean, did you see my post like about 2 weeks ago where I had taken photos of every washing machine at the laundromat, all the numbers?
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
Every race plane number Philip had flown. I was missing Reno, and I was going around taking, and I just had like, I don't know how many. It was ridiculous.
I think I'm up to 22 different Formula One airplanes.
Wow, man, that's crazy. I kind of want to know what you think about mine, how mine flies compared to others, because I've only flown one.
Well, that'll be 23. I'll fly it. I'll come up there.
Yeah, we might have to set that up.
Got a
Next time you come up,
weeks.
let me know. Yeah, right now. Hopefully not for long, though.
Yeah, supposedly after the first of the year. So.
Yeah, or after November 3rd.
Yeah,
that's probably right.
Let's not talk about that here.
Yeah.
So if someone wanted to get into Formula One and wanted to contact you guys and get into your race camp there, how could they reach you guys?
You're just talking,
I'm
chatting.
I was going to say, hey, have them get a hold of the new promotions chairperson.
No, man, that bad answer. If they want to talk to you two about your race camp or advice or whatever, what's the best way?
I'm on Facebook. I answer. Phillip doesn't hardly ever answer Facebook. Kelly
So you-
Stevens Goforth or Flyboys
Race camp.
Race Camp.
Black
Flyboy-
Sheep Squadron.
Yeah.
There's a
Flyboys
page.
Black- Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a page.
Right. And so if somebody DMs that page, you'll answer it?
I do, yes.
All right. What about
And then-
phone or email? You want to just stick to Facebook DMs?
It doesn't matter. Phillip doesn't answer his phone, so
All right. We'll
It's
leave it at
true.
that.
it's
No,
true.
yeah, Facebook's probably the easiest way. I mean, that's most people have it, and the ones that don't, like Chris Weaver, we make them get it.
No, I
Yeah.
made Chris get a Facebook page. Did I not? Chris he's got a Facebook now.
He does now.
I-
That's how he contacted me first, I think, is through Facebook.
Yep.
He said, "Hey, I got an airplane local."
A
What?
A
Yeah, totally. He's super Canadian.
super Canadian.
Yeah, I'm
So,
not.
yeah, we answer questions on Facebook, so if anybody's interested. And like I said, even if you're not a pilot and you just love airplanes and you want to spend a week hanging out, getting dirty, we have got the best hangar to come do that in, because every single one of those airplanes needs something worked on all the time. It's just
Right.
a Formula One thing.
And in
except
our
if
next
you have
race,
Scott- except
So
for
wait.
Scott's airplane.
oh, right. Yeah, it doesn't
never
get worked
has
on
to.
in the
It
race,
doesn't
ever.
have to.
That's a hard rule unless it's broken and it never breaks.
Right.
Knock on wood. So next race, you will see Maybe's Baby, Gold Fever. What else has nobody seen before that's coming? This new secret black project.
I don't think the gold one will be ready till 2022.
Okay.
And quad nickel. That's what you're getting from us this
Quad
year.
nickel and new paint with a new motor.
Yeah. Same number though.
Three
Yeah.
blade prop.
Okay.
Electronic ignition. Just bringing it into this century. Trying to clean it up a little.
Yeah.
I mean, Jay he built that from the ground up and made it. I think he's got a bigger speed envelope than I had. I think he first qualified at like 170, and then he got that thing all the way up to right at 230.
Right. Man, that's
So-
crazy how fast that is.
Yeah, with a good engine.
Carbon wing.
Yeah, it's carbon wing. It's just like Naughty Girl used to have. It's the same wing it had, and it's an airplane that when Jay had it was a lot like yours. He flew that thing everywhere. He went from Colorado all the way to Sun and Fun,
Oshkosh.
Oshkosh every year, sleep in the trailer. I mean, he flew it everywhere. So it was a cool airplane, but it still ended up being. It was always in the gold before, so he always came in like fifth, forever, fifth in the gold.
Yeah, Jay passed away in a plane crash at his home airport in Colorado somewhere, near his home airport, in an amphibious airplane, I think, in a Sea Wind.
Yep.
Yeah, now that really rocked the class. Jay was a really instrumental figure, fatherly figure, I guess, to a lot of people, especially with airplane design and build.
Old school.
Yeah.
Old school airplane design and build.
Well, what do you think, Brian? Should we wrap it up there? Anything else?
Yeah, we've been going for a little over an hour now.
Oh, we can talk Formula One all night.
I know. It's too easy. Well, that's all we do in Reno, right? Talk for a week about F1.
Exactly.
Have fun, play with airplanes.
Exactly.
And all these other races coming up.
There will be, actually, we are going to have a couple more races.
We have one in the final stages right now.
Yeah.
Oh,
Besides,
man.
Yeah.
No way. F1 or Air Race 1?
Both.
it's a
Woo.
together.
Everybody heard that? There you go. It's coming straight from them. We've got some opportunity coming.
We do.
Yeah. So if it all happens right, there'll be one international. Oh no, not this next year. It'll be two separate events and a third Reno.
That'll be so fun.
Yeah, you'll want to leave your airplane down here September, October, November.
I've got so much vacation time saved up now. I've done nothing for a year.
That'll be perfect.
Spend
Yeah,
weeks
then
with you next year.
Then we can count on you to be there for sure, right?
Yeah.
What would be really great is if you had your other airplane ready to go and you can run in the gold and the bronze.
Man, I love Texas. I'll try really hard to get both airplanes there.
Do
Well,
it.
then if you bring Pooter, the pumpkin, your plane, and then the chicken, shit, you guys got half the field.
We got a whole Canadian. That's almost as many airplanes as the whole Canadian Air Force has fighters.
Perfect.
Isn't that a flock? Canadian geese? Isn't that a
Oh.
flock?
Yeah, they're all flying
flocking.
south right now.
Yeah.
They're heading your way. Enjoy that.
We'd love to have you come down. But what
Might
I
have
would
to.
say is that you get both of your airplanes ready to go and you can race two
I'll try really hard this winter.
and get beat twice.
You
No,
beat twice.
Oh, you know, okay, Brian, we got to get that picture up again.
Yeah, you need to tell the
Which
story.
one? The one
of
where they're beating
the
you,
real-
or
the real story? The real
Which
story,
story?
Scott, of where
Which
you
story?
were beating Annie.
I did. I beat it fair and square.
Okay, yeah. Why was that you were able to beat him though?
Because he cheated on the inside at the very last second.
Well,
I
and
didn't
here's the
fall.
thing. And he wasn't allowed to pass you. Do you remember that?
No, I
It was
passed.
the
Oh, you were ahead of me the whole time. I
I
followed
thought
you
that
around
was
the track
finish
for 7
race.
laps.
We
At
were.
the end.
It was, but we were fill-ins, and Scott was
Right.
the slowest of the fill-ins, and so.
So
we
I
were
came
up
off the
there.
ground last.
And then, but then we came up and we were catching Barksdale right at the end. So I pulled the power back so I wouldn't pass Barksdale. And here comes Scott. Ugh. Beat me by
No.
that much.
All
Dude,
know
I
is played that.
banditoed you for 5 laps. We followed the leader with Barksdale in the lead.
I was in Annie. How could you bandito me and Annie with your thing?
No, you were behind Barksdale, powered back to like 2,000 RPM. I was behind you, watching your line,
It was 2,300.
and I juiced it on pylon 3, used the whole backstretch to accelerate and climb, and then caught you passing 6, and got the perfect GoPro wingtip photo ahead of Annie, with Barksdale just in front of me.
Hold on.
Passing us on the outside.
Were you on my left or my right?
I passed you on the outside.
Where's the picture?
Yeah, we not see this picture
I'm
now.
pretty sure
Okay.
you were on the inside.
I actually paid up on that bet too, so
Yeah, I know.
you may need to pay me.
You
back.
had it was legit.
You were on the
It
inside.
doesn't
It was
sound
fair
legit
and
now.
square. I think I've only, out of all the bets I made in F1, I've only lost once. I think
I've
it was
gotten
last
coffee
year.
a couple times.
Oh, that's true. Maybe a couple more times. Not many though. Most of them I win.
just forgets.
I don't know. You supplied my coffee habit now for a couple years, so I'm happy with that.
Well, we can keep that going.
Always
Keeps you
the dark
happy in
roast.
the morning.
Always the dark roast.
All right. We can make this work. All right. Well, let's wrap that up here. It sounds like we've got quite a plan for this next race.
Yes, we do.
All right.
It's a both locations are really nice locations. It'll be fun.
Oh man.
Be warm weather in the winter, so it'll be nice.
Oh.
I got to get myself
Any
an
idea
airplane
on
now.
timing?
We're trying to do before Reno.
Yeah.
What is the day of the more?
He's not even on the committee. He's not supposed to know anything. So
I'm the
Keep
head
it up,
poobah
Brian.
for another 2 weeks.
yeah, but he's not the poobah on my committee, so it doesn't really matter. I'm just letting you know we're working really hard on getting 2 races with Air Race 1 and Formula 1 together.
You know,
plus Reno.
hold on. For
With
someone
new
who's
airplanes.
not on your little committee, I remember flying my ass to both of these locations, flying around looking at them,
As my husband.
and then driving down again and talking to the city councils and all the different state officials to make this happen.
You see why you don't ask for help on a committee? They just complain.
Because it takes real
Complain.
people to get it done.
I needed a pilot. That's what I needed. I needed a pilot. That's all. Anyway,
All right.
let's wrap
When
this
you
up.
announce your next plane, I'm gonna put a bet on it.
It doesn't matter, Scott. It's going to be faster than you no matter what.
Hold on. So your electric airplane is going to be your red one?
Oh, you want to talk about that now? I've been trying to leave
No.
that out.
No,
Nope.
I'm just
Nope.
I'm
Nope.
just gonna talk about
Nope.
if it is
Nope.
if it is
Nope.
your red one.
We're still going to beat you no matter whether it's gas or electric. The end.
Please stop.
No. Let's talk about it.
Let's hear it.
But is it your red airplane that you're converting to the electric?
Why are you wondering, Philip?
Well, I just want to know how many times I'm going to lap you.
Oh, you're gonna wait. How can you lap me if you don't have an electric airplane?
I'll make one, I guess.
I'm keeping my mouth shut. I'm gonna play my
Win.
cards with this one, but I'll tell you right now, firewall forward, it's ready.
That's cool.
We're excited for you. We really are. You know what? It's
I'm
cool.
rooting for the underdog for second place as well. I mean, I think you got a solid shot at coming in second.
Oh,
The
to
way I
who?
see it, there's probably
Who
only
would
going to
be
be two
first?
electric planes. There's only going to be two there anyway. The
Oh,
one that Philip's building in the garage, and yours.
oh, you're building an electric airplane?
Isn't
already?
everybody?
Isn't everyone?
No, I think only a
Oh.
few are. Are you an Air Race E team?
I don't know. Played the fifth.
Give us another couple weeks, and we'll be able to say more about it.
November 16th. Call us back.
Okay. Do you want to announce here?
Sure.
Think about it. I think we can open this option up. Brian, what do you think?
We might be able to.
Brian's so easy. He's like, whatever. Let it
Yeah,
go.
sure,
Let
sure.
it ride.
No,
Brian,
All right.
are you a betting man, Brian?
I am.
Are you familiar with Tim Hortons black dark coffee, the dark roast?
Unfortunately, it has.
Okay. We'll talk.
That's the currency.
That's the currency. Scott wanted cold hard cash. I deal in coffee.
I also take euros, Des. Okay, let's wrap it up here.
Cool.
Thanks for coming on this podcast, guys, and taking an hour.
No problem. It's awesome.